In the morning sun where the flowers bloom, colors burst like a painter's dream come true. Roses red and violets blue, every petal whispers something new. From tiny seeds to trees so grand, every leaf and bird, it's all at hand. Hello, hello plant, welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello plant, in every shade and hue, for every heart and every hand, we've got something for you. Indoor greens and outdoor scenes, design your space, let your garden dreams glide. Personal touch with our garden design, free sessions to blend within your budget line. From tiny seeds to trees so grand, every leaf and bird, it's all at hand. Hello, hello plant, welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello plant, in every shade and hue, for every heart and every hand, we've got something for you. Now everybody, let's say hello, 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 hello.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to our live Q&A. This is a place where you can come with all your gardening questions, any problems that you're having, anything that you're just curious about and you want to know more about. This is the space for it. So it's super simple. If you are a returning visitor, hello. But if you're new here, pretty much how it works is all you need to do is comment below your question, and then I'm going to ask it to Chris, who is a gardening expert. He's been in the industry for many, many decades and has an answer for any and all questions. So we run this for about 45 minutes, and if you want to definitely guarantee that you get your question answered, because we don't always have it answered, because we just sometimes run out of time, unfortunately, make sure to comment it now. I can already see some comments rolling in. So how are you doing today, Chris?
Great, thanks.
Can I answer some questions?
Yeah, ready to go.
Perfect, let's get right into it. All right, we're going to start off strong with Ken's Curls question. Do you deliver lawn as well?
No, we don't. No, we don't. It's basically a bit too heavy for the types of vehicles that we're using, so we don't quite have the equipment to do it. But so we don't do it.
Yeah, no worries. Next one is Rob's question. How big can I allow a Cascade Lily Pilly to get before it will damage a retaining wall?
I think if you kept it under 2 meters, it should be fine, or up to 2 meters, it should be fine.
Yeah, amazing. All right. Sorry, we're just having some technical difficulties on one of our platforms, but we will have that fixed soon. What is some of the... Okay, we're good? Great. What are some of the best plants to get as a Christmas gift?
That's interesting. I always, when people come in and ask me, what will I buy for a Christmas gift, I always say, how old is the person that you're buying for? And for an older person, something like a Daphne, or and do they have a garden, or they've just got pot plants on the patio? So they're my two, is how old is the person, and then from that I gauge, and older people would tend to like things like a Daphne, something sort of fairly classic, a really nice rose or something like that. And then younger people, you might look at something like a tractor seat, tractor seats and hydrangeas, And if they've just got an apartment and they're more indoors, you might buy a really nice peace lily or a rubber tree or something like that. It's good to buy something that's fairly tough for people so that they're not embarrassed by it keeling over, and then when you come out of their house, the plant's not there anymore and they're all embarrassed and that. So buy them something fairly tough. Probably go in and ask your nurseryman, but I'm always saying, how old is the person? Do they have a garden? Do they have a patio? Or are we working indoors? And they're the critical things that allow me to choose the right thing for the person.
Yeah, perfect. And we do have an article as well up on Chris's blog. That's all about finding the best gift for different people, obviously like different ages, like Chris was mentioning, people who have different styles, different tastes. That is up on our Chris's blog right now if you want to check that out if you haven't done your Christmas shopping yet, which we have no judgment for, but yeah, you feel free to take a look at that. Next question is going to be, can standard roses be grown in pots? And if so, what is the best size pot and best roses to grow in said pot? So 3 questions in one. First, let's start with, can standard roses be grown in a pot?
Yes, and my partner often grows them in pots, and I think if you're going to go long term in the pot, you need a 40 to 50 centimetre pot, and then you can get a beautiful big full healthy rose. But I mean, if you're just holding them in a pot for a year or so, a 25 or 30 centimetre pot would be fine. So, but for long term, I'd go 40 or 50 centimetres. And in the pot, they'd like a good dose of lime at least once a year. And that's so a good dose of lime. Fertilise them regularly with, say, Osmocote. Spray them a little, keep them well watered. Roses are fairly thirsty. And you'll be in business in a pot, and go fairly large, like a 40 or 50 centimetre pot if you're going long term in the pot.
Yeah, perfect. All right, next question is from Dino. What's a good tree or few trees for a constantly wet transpiration pit? Plenty of room, thanks.
Okay, so the very best tree of all is a tree, the proper name is Ulmus duralensis, sometimes called a Toorak gum tree, sometimes called an evergreen alder. And that is a very, very fast growing tree. You can plant one of those about 1 metre tall, and in 1 year, if you get the grass and weeds away from it and a little bit of water and fertiliser, you'll get it to 5 metres, from 1 metre to 5 metres in 1 year. Amazing tree, evergreen, and that's why it's probably the best, because it really knows how to suck up water. And where, say, a weeping willow is fabulous for sucking up water, but it knocks off for the winter. It knocks off for about 4 months of the year, whereas your evergreen alder is at it every day, right through the winter. So really great for soaking up moisture, and it's evergreen. So, but all of your willows are good for that sort of thing. But the evergreen alder is probably distantly related to a willow. Loves the water. It can take periodic flooding. So in fact, it enjoys being flooded at least once a year. So very, very good for soaking up water.
Amazing. Next one is, Heather has a narrow garden bed, west facing. There is a large gum tree that is nearby and overshadows this bed. Everything we have planted here has died. Can you suggest some plants to try?
Well, a couple of different things. You could try licorice helichrysum, nice silver plant, very, very tough. And say you did licorice helichrysum, what else would you put with it? That's a kind of a silvery thing. I'm just trying to think of what's super duper tough that could go in with that. You could try like a moonbay or a dwarf nandina would give you a nice contrast to that. And they would tend to do well in a spot like that. And then any of your succulents would do well. And then the other one that you couldn't go wrong with is something like a creeping saltbush. And if you did all creeping saltbush, it can look a bit boring. So if you mixed up creeping saltbush with the Myoporum urina, that'll give you a beautiful dark green, dense dark green, and then a contrasting silver grey of the smoke bush.
Beautiful. Next one is from In Leah's World. They're torn between a boxleaf privet and a petoserum for their front hedge. Pros and cons of each, please. And they have full sun, and they have a preference for low water preference. So it's between the boxleaf privet and the Pittosporum for a front hedge.
Okay, so boxleaf privet is probably faster growing, probably easier to grow. A lot of people, lose when they first plant the Pittosporums, they'll lose the odd one because they're just that little bit harder to plant and get them going. So the privet is hardier and easier to establish, very, very fast growing, and quite good in very poor soils, poor and heavy and difficult soils. Pittosporum really needs average to good soil. It won't grow in terrible soil. But put in the right spot and treat it correctly, the Pittosporum performs nearly as quickly as the privet. So if I was when I get customers that are real novices and nervously, planting their first plants, I'll be more likely to sell them a privet than a Pittosporum. But if I had a very confident, keen person who knew how to plant and knew how to do things, I would say that they're fairly equal, unless the soil's poor, and then the privet takes over. But then it becomes a point of taste. The Pittosporums are normally grey greens or silver greens, and the privet is a nice rich dark green, and in some situations that green is going to look better.
Yep, perfect. All right, next one is, can you please recommend dog-friendly indoor plants that are super easy to care for? A bit of colour would be even better.
Dog-friendly. Super easy to care for. I might just get you to double check and make sure they're not terribly poisonous or anything like that. But I was thinking that the easiest indoor plant I could think of to care for would be a aspidistra, or an iron plant, or an umbrella tree. They would be the easiest plants possibly in the world. And then the other one would be a what do you call it?
The aspidistra, I just want to confirm, is non-toxic to dogs. So we're good there. What
so
was the other?
aspidistra, super tough. Umbrella tree.
Umbrella tree. I'm checking that
and then
one
the other
now.
one I'm thinking of is what am I thinking?
Umbrella trees are not dog friendly. So not the umbrella tree, but the aspidistra is fine.
Okay, so good. I'm on the track of another. I was thinking of aspidistra. The something I really like is there's a new type of spider plant, which is a kind of a grassy plant of green and white stripe. And there's the old one, it's a bit daggy looking, but there's a new one. And what I really like about it is that you can put it up on a table, up on a bench, or hang it up in a hanging basket. It has beautiful streams of babies that'll hang down more than a metre. And I would say that that's your spider grass. Could you check that one for me,
Yeah,
please?
they are non-toxic to dogs.
Yeah, so
they're fine.
spider grass, considered a good air cleaner, probably one of the easiest plants to grow. And what's great about it is that if your friends come along and say, gee, that's nice, where'd you get that? I say, look, I'll give you one. You can just break a baby off and give it to them. And in fact, my grandson, he came up here one day and he collected some babies and some pots and he potted them, and he's trying to sell them back to me for $5 each. I'm negotiating with him. I'm trying to get him a bit under $5, but he's he's propagated and grown himself. Very, very proud of them. He's had it for about 12 months and looked after them the whole time. But he just broke off some pieces, put them in the ground, and it was his first bit of plant propagation, and he's only 5.
What a young entrepreneur.
Yeah, but $5 is a bit steep. I mean, he got everything from here.
Doesn't quite have the business sense yet. But he'll do.
Or maybe he's got the business sense.
Oh gosh. All right. Next question is, can I propagate a Japanese maple in a pot, or does it need shade or sun?
Okay. In a pot, a Japanese maple needs to be really well watered. I've got lots of big Japanese maples in pots, some really expensive stuff here, up to $1,500 or nearly $2,000 each. And there's all different sorts of Japanese maples, but my rule is that I water them every day that it's not pouring rain, and I water them twice on really, really hot days. And when they're dry, I'll water them sort of 2 times in a row. Like you water them once, water them half an hour later. And my mum kept bonsais in little tiny bonsai trays for many, many years. And it was eventually when we became teenagers and became less reliable helping her that they died of dryness. So she'd still have them if we hadn't have stop watering them. So watering, Japanese maples I think are probably the best tree to keep in a pot, probably the best lot, but watering is the whole secret. Watering is the everything of it. A little bit of dolomite lime once a year, because that disappears. And when I pot a Japanese maple, I like to use a little bit of natural soil with my potting mix, and that seems to improve the autumn colour and improve the general colour and appearance. They really seem to thrive on having maybe 10% real soil and 90% potting mix in the pot. But good quality potting mix, plenty of water, bit of natural soil, bit of dolomite lime once a year, bit of Osmocote here and there, and you'd be and probably the best tree to keep in a pot.
Perfect. All right. Can you recommend a book for Australian garden learners?
A book,
For Australian garden learners,
garden.
like people wanting to get into gardening, that's like specific to Australia.
Do you know, one of the, you'll find if you look through Digger's Seeds, they've got some really good books, and what's good is that they're not sort of world oriented, they're very much Australian oriented. So I'd look through the Digger's Seed catalogue and check that out. And what's great about Digger's Seeds is that they've done a great job of preserving original species vegetables, and they have their own seed nursery, and they produce, you know, really, and they really tailor make vegetables and herbs and things like that for the Australian gardener, and make it available to people all over Australia. So that would be a great place to go and have a look at their books on their catalogue.
Yeah. Also, Ruthie would like to know your thoughts on Japanese flowering crab apple tree, long-term and root system.
Okay. Your Japanese flowering one can get quite large, so you really need a big space for it. For the modern garden, which tends to be on the small side, I'd be more looking at a, what is it, just escapes me for a minute. There's a much smaller one with a multicolored flower, much more compact one. I was just thinking, what is it? It's first word is starts with P. I'll think of it in a sec, but I'll come back to that. But yeah, there's some much more compact ones than the Japanese. The Japanese one is the sort of thing I'd have if I had a really big block and I wanted a nice big shade tree. But I love it. It has a little bit of ornamental fruit. It has fabulous blossom. It has beautiful autumn colour. Great tree. Plena, Flora plena. There's a crabapple called Flora plena, and that has. I think that has probably the best spring. We made a video about it this year. It has, you know, the one we did photos down in the pub down there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What is it? Malus
Ioensis.
Malus ioensis flora plena. We've done a video on that. Now, I think that has the best blossom of any crabapple. It doesn't have any ornamental fruit. It has a really interesting silver grey, beautifully shaped leaf. And what I like about it is it's not a big tree. A lot of the crabapples can be quite large, but your Ioensis flora plena with a little prune you can keep as a 2.5–3 metre tree. So it's the sort of crabapple that anybody could have, whereas your Japanese one is tends to be fairly big.
Perfect. All right. From Mitchell, we have how long should stakes stay before removing them from a tree?
That really, you've got to use your judgment a little bit, but as soon as you've got a strong tree that'll stand up straight without a stake, but sometimes you might keep a stake there for a while longer. Like mostly I would think 12 to 24 months would be the time for staking a tree, but occasionally you'll have a tree with a nasty bend in it or something like that, and it might need it a little bit longer, but 12 to 18 months should be the time.
Yep. Next question is, what's a good shade tree for farms, livestock shade, that doesn't drop limbs often?
I reckon some of your exotic trees, like your sensation maple, your Japanese elm, and if you're in a very arid area and difficult sort of soils and things like that, your white cedar, which is your Melia azedarac. So that all of those seem to be very, very. Melia's never seem to drop a tree, drop a limb. Your Sensation maple, very, very long lasting, and your Japanese elm, beautiful, delicate looking tree, but very, very tough and very fast growing and very spreads out very quickly and creates lots of shade.
Yep. Susan was recently gifted a palm plant. I've been keeping it indoors, watering it once in 2 days. I have noticed that the leaves have been browning a bit. It's not hit by direct sunlight.
I reckon once every 2 days, in this weather now, I reckon a really good soak, and like what I like to do is a really good soak once every week or 7 or 8, 9 days, something like that. But what most people do is that they water just a tiny amount. I like to water not so often and give them a real good soak, like put them in the laundry trough and flood them for 15 minutes or so and let them get really wet, then let them drip dry overnight and then pop them back out into their spot. So really good soak, but not too often.
Yeah.
And when you are soaking them, that's a time when you could get a bit of liquid fertilizer in around them and get them growing. And depending on your palm, depending on the type of palm that you got, it might like a little bit more light and sun. Like say if it's a bungalow palm, it might like a bit more light and sun, whereas if it's say a lady palm, it's going to be completely happy without any sun.
Yeah. Lisa Sam Brown would like to know if they can bring their evergreen alders back to life. They look dead with no leaves.
What are they?
Evergreen alders.
Evergreen alders. If they've got green stems, I reckon you can. What evergreen alders do is that when they're stressed, they can drop all their leaves and go dormant for a period of time. And so possibly they've dried out or they experienced bad frost. This I don't think so. So a stressed evergreen alder has the ability to drop all its leaves and then come back to life later. And the thing that would bring them back to life is plenty of water. Plenty of water and maybe a little bit of sea salt.
Yeah. I've just planted Bangalore palm and it has yellow and brown spots just after 7 days.
So what I'd be checking for is I'd be checking for wet feet. And what you do is dig down beside the roots and make sure it's not sort of stinky and wet and mushy down there. And if it was, you'd lift it up, mount it up, and make sure that it's really, really well drained.
Yeah. What's a good food for lilac trees? Brought one from you in Campbellfield recently.
Okay, lilac trees are interesting. What is they've been grafted onto a terrible noxious weed, which is possibly bad in one respect, but really good in another. That means that like whatever they get, they'll be happy about. So if you give them anything that you've got, one little trick though is that if you were to look at your tree, and you'll notice it's got a sort of a chop where the graft is, and it's really good. The first time I ever grew lilacs, I was going out every few weeks and chopping all the suckers off them. It drove me crazy. Then one day an old nurseryman told me that if you bury that old nasty noxious weed, which is a privet vulgaris that's growing underneath it, if you bury that, so you can mount up around it and bury the stump, you won't get any suckers. And then in terms of food, whatever you've got, Osmocote, Dynamic Lifter, a bit of cow manure, whatever you want, your privet, being a noxious weed, is the least fussy plant in your garden. It'll take anything it gets and a bit of water, it'll love it.
Yeah. I'm in Melbourne too. How come my established blueberry bush dropped every berry before ripening?
Okay, my dad, I was wondering how to grow blueberries when I was young. They just came into fashion. All of a sudden they were around. They're very expensive, very hard to get. But my dad got in and started growing them, and he grew them in a spot with morning sun, afternoon shade. So, and he grew them in deep acidic soil. And if you get fine crushed pine bark and mix it through your soil, or you get a lot of different potting mixes are on the market. A good quality potting mix it with your soil, and you use something like Osmocote liquid fertilizer for acid-loving plants. And I'll repeat that so I'm not going too quick. But Osmocote liquid fertilizer for acid-loving plants. Basically, your blueberry likes deep, loose, loamy soil. It likes it to be a bit on the acid side. It likes lots and lots of nutrients. The people with them fertilize them a lot, so plenty of nutrients. So it's something like your Osmocote liquid fertilizer, fantastic. And then out of the hot afternoon sun into a bit of dappled shade or a bit of morning sun, afternoon shade or something like that. And the kind of the idea that I've always had in my back of my mind about blueberries is treat them a bit like you would an azalea, because they're a bit like that, rather like an azalea, what they'd like. So, so I'll just quickly sum it up. Plenty of moisture, deep, loose, acidic soil, plenty of fertilizer, not too much hot afternoon sun.
Perfect. All right, what's the right time to plant pot plants into the garden? I'm finding it too hot to plant anything.
Well, that's a funny thing. It's a funny thing. What it is that humans are organisms and plants are organisms, right? And so humans on a hot day often feel terrible. They don't feel like moving around. They don't, you know, it's sort of hard to do things. It's even hard to think when it's really, really hot. And so naturally you would assume that your plants are in the same boat as you are, because they're organisms too. But in actual fact, it's just not true. I've got a growing operation with my partner out in Shepparton, and it's 5 to 10 degrees hotter every day out there than it is here, and I feel very uncomfortable working in the heat out there. But it's but the plants, as long as they got plenty of water, they love it. They grow absolutely crazy. The speed of growth is almost double what you'd have in Melbourne. And we're madly planting on the hottest of days. Like we're going to be planting in this coming week. We're going to be planting in 36-degree heat, and so plants, given enough moisture, most plants thrive at fairly high temperatures, and they love the sun's energy. They love that heat, and what you've got to do is back the heat with moisture. So basically. With a lot of my garden designs that I'm doing, I'm recommending that people use a little bit of soil wetter. Soil wetter is a chemical that helps water to go in, mix all through the ground really well, stay in the ground longer, and be accessible to the plant. So soil wetter, cheap, easy to apply, and a good way of making sure your plant's got plenty of water. But basically, plant now. I'm trying to plant 100,000 plants in the next 6 weeks in the heat, because those plants are all going to grow like crazy, and I'll have beautiful products to sell in autumn and winter and spring.
Yeah.
So I say plant now, but make sure you. And what's interesting in terms of getting moisture out, there's a great video which Danae can sort of tell you about watering. A lot of people are held back with getting moisture on their garden by those little half-inch hoses and little orange guns. But we advocate a bigger hose and a bigger gun, and pump that water out, and have your plants. If you put them in now, you'll have the advantage of beautiful summer growth and a beautifully established plant that'll grow like crazy. A lot of people think the winter's the time. In actual fact, you plant a plant in winter and it doesn't move for 4 or 5 or 6 months, and by the time it does start to move, it's a bit sad and just sort of going backwards a bit.
Yeah, great. All right, so next question is, and in terms of where you can find that watering content, either go to our YouTube channel and search up like water in the search function. You'll get a bunch of videos all about watering, or you can go to our YouTube channel and same thing, search up water, and you'll get all the videos coming up about that. All right, next question is from Penelope. What do I have to do to get my peace lily to flower?
Lily pilly to flower?
Yes.
Most people don't want their lily pilly to flower.
Their peace lily.
Oh, peace
Sorry.
lily. Peace lily. Right, okay. So, fabulous product is Miracle Grow. Miracle Grow is an American developed product, and what it is, it's a fertilizer with low nitrogen and high phosphorus. And the phosphorus almost gives the plant a toxic shock and pushes it over to flowering. And so if you were to regularly apply Miracle Grow, as per the instructions on the pack, to your peace lily for a period of time, you will get it flowering and flowering beautifully.
Yeah.
And the idea of Miracle Grow, you can use it on annuals. I've used it on all sorts of things. Anything I want to get to flower, I'll use multiple applications of Miracle Grow, and it'll get it flowering.
Yeah. And then Penelope also wants to know what fertilizer is best for my Smaragd. Smaragd. I think it's a type of conifer.
Oh, right, yeah, smaragd, yeah.
Smaragd, yeah. I've killed one, I think, with the wrong fertilizer.
Okay, I reckon Osmocote's great for you, smaragd. And just the all-purpose Osmocote's all you need.
Yeah.
And you'd be fairly liberal. Say if you had a smaragd that was, say, 1 metre tall, you'd put it all around the root zone. Don't put it out too far from the plant. Just all around the drip zone. Sorry, the drip zone was where the water drips down. And if you put it all around the drip zone, sort of which is under the foliage, I'd say if it was a 1 metre tall one, you could use a level tablespoon. That'll kick it and get it going.
Yeah. What's the best flower for indoors little sunlight?
An impatient. And you can use New Guinea impatient or common impatient.
Yeah.
New Guinea is probably the best.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
How do I make my magnolia little gem bush up? They seem to be struggling in the heat.
Struggling in the heat sounds like maybe not enough water, or maybe the water's not getting in. A bit of cultivation and a bit of soil wetter might help the water get in. I'd probably rather than trimming them or doing anything much with them, I would push for more growth, and that should get them, bushing up. And I would use some Osmocote fertilizer. I would use a bit of soil wetter, and I'd cultivate around them to get that soil wetter and Osmocote into the ground, and then water them a little bit longer and deeper.
Yeah. And what do you recommend planting under magnolia little gems?
If I had a bit of space, I really like the combination of a plum gorgeous, nice purple plum gorgeous Laura petalum, and then maybe something like a stripy white liriope. So that you've got a bit of colour around them, because they're just a very deep green and not a lot of colour.
Yeah.
So I reckon that'd be the go.
All right. I have a semi-mature olive tree that suddenly died. Any thoughts on what might have happened?
That's unusual. Semi-mature died. Gee, I'd imagine some sort of root disturbance, or there is a bug getting around on olives at the moment. Some sort of bug which could defoliate sort of bug, and maybe that's what got them. Like I've seen it around. There is a bug defoliating olives at the moment.
All right. Do you know why do the flower buds of camellia drop before they bloom?
What it is that the camellia has produced a certain number of buds, and maybe due to a lack of water or a lack of nutrients, it feels that it can't cope, and they abort. So it's basically the tree is stressed. So if I had that happening with my camellia, I'd clear grass and weeds away from the base. I would have and then I would use like a fine crushed pine bark mulch around it, and I'd use some Osmocote.
Yeah. Idea feature trees for afternoon sun, wind-prone area for a more classic garden, small front yard.
So I missed the first little bit, sorry.
Feature tree. Ideas for a feature tree.
Feature tree. I wonder where you live. But say, let's take a stab at it. A nice, not too big feature tree. I'll give you a couple of my favourites. One would be an Emperor One maple. That's going to grow about 4 metres tall. Beautiful purple red foliage, and you've got that there for 9 months of the year, and a lovely sort of mapley shape to it. So very, very nice tree, Emperor One. Another nice and interesting tree, not too big, would be a Kelly's Golden maple. And that's a fast-growing, tough but compact little tree with lovely bright golden foliage at this time of year. And then another nice small feature tree would be a crepe myrtle, and you might use an Acoma. Is only like a 3.5 metre, beautiful white flowers, lovely dense foliage. After the white flowers, fabulous autumn colour, and beautiful white and sort of dark brown. Smooth bark with a nice white and dark brown pattern on it. So lovely small tree.
Yeah.
And a coma is much smaller than most of your crepe myrtles.
If my bungalow palms have drainage problems, how can I correct it? My bungalow palms have drainage problems?
Drainage.
How can I correct it?
Lift them up. Dig them up, lift them up. Like make a raised garden bed, and they love water, but they don't want to be in the water. They want to be above the water and sucking up the water.
Yeah.
So if you put some rocks or timber or something around it, added some good loamy soil and lift them up, you should be able to save them.
Yeah. Next one is, I assume it's lily pilly hedge, not lily hedge. Has dark spots all over them, but when I water So lily pilly hedge has dark spots all over them when I water them, but if I don't water them, it goes? Question mark. So when they do water them, they get dark spots.
That's unusual. I've never seen anything like that before. Look, now's the time to one way to make lily pilly healthy is to get it growing. And if you were to fertilise them now, absolutely drown them once a week and really get growing, I'm sure that they'll get out of that. And with the watering, what I'd be inclined to do is give them a really good deep soak once a week, and not just be spraying them and sort of teasing them with little amounts of, lots of little amounts of water. Really big soak, maybe with a soak-it hose once a week, a bit of Osmocote every 6 weeks, and really get them moving, and they could grow out of it.
Yeah. I'm after a slim, tall screening shrub that will be 2 to 2.5 meters. It's shady between two houses.
Right, okay. The best thing for a tall, skinny thing in the shade is a little bit hard to get, is a fastigiate English box, sometimes called an emerald pillar, but they'll grow 2.5, maybe 3 meters tall, and only grow 50 or 60 centimeters wide. You can trim them and keep them even narrower than that, and they just have like a bushy little kind of fine, dense root system. So really very, very nice.
Perfect. Just letting people know we have about 10 minutes left of the live. So if you do have any questions, make sure you get it in now to definitely get it answered. All right, next question is, my lily pillies are losing the battle to black mites. Neem oil doesn't seem to work.
No, it doesn't. Unfortunately, the only thing I've found that'll really, it's actually a little miniature beetle that's attacking them and taking big chunks out of the leaves and stripping off all the new growth. And the short-term answer is to use Confidor, which comes under various different brand names like Confidant and things like that. But so Confidor is a systemic spray, very, very effective for that particular problem. But the thing is that what you have to think about is that you're going to have to do that 2 or 3 times a year from now until for as long as you have the hedge. So the other thing is that we have replacements. Years ago I bought out the Neighbours Begone hedge, and unfortunately the Neighbours Begone hedge is now attacked by that particular beetle. And what I'm just starting to do now is I've got a new Neighbours Begone, and it's a fast-growing, beautiful, thick, bushy hedge, but the psyllids, which are the ones that put the little bumps on the leaves, and those little beetles do not eat it. So you can have it bug-free and not spray it. And really what you've got to do is think, do I want to be spraying this poison on my hedge all forever into the future, because you will be, or do I replace it with a new one? And if you came and saw me, I can show you a number of alternatives to lily pillies. I can show you a number of lily pillies that don't get the problems, or we do have our new Neighbours Begone, which is the one the bugs don't eat.
Yep. Penelope would like to know, why do the leaves on my plum tree curl up and look dry? What can I do to stop this? Okay,
it sounds like what you've got is curly leaf, and curly leaf is a fungus that forms in the winter, and then you get the form leaves. Now, at this time of year, there's not a lot you can do about it other than really encourage the tree to grow out of it, and how you do that is with perhaps a bit of lime, lots and lots of fertilizer, and plenty of water, and get your plum tree growing, and it'll grow out of that. And then now it's no good buying Bordeaux mixture, because Bordeaux mixture is only good for about a week after you mix it up. So if you look up how to make your own Bordeaux mixture, and it's the very first fungicide ever made by man, and if you've got any sort of stone fruit that gets that curly leaf on it, what you do is you look up how to make your Bordeaux mixture. You make your own Bordeaux mixture as you require it, and you spray them in June, July and August with Bordeaux mixture. That's when they're all naked, they've got no leaves on them, And then what that does is that stops that curly leaf forming in the bud of the tree and then exhibiting itself later. But right now, if you've got it, accept it, fertilise and water and get them to grow out of it. The new growth that comes now will be clean and not curly.
Yeah, perfect. Wendy would like to know a small ornamental for north-facing exposed front, not more than 2 meters, please, and they prefer weeping.
Okay, so if you were to go down the back of my nursery, we've got about 12 different sorts of beautiful weeping grevilleas. And right now they're 1.5 meters tall. If you were to plant one of those and water and fertilise and look after it, 10 years from now they might just achieve 2 meters in height. So basically they're something that grows out and down. They're evergreen, they have really beautiful flowers, they have interesting foliage, interesting shape, really, really nice for that sort of job.
Perfect. I put a star jasmine in a terracotta pot, but it doesn't seem to be growing. Any tips?
Fertiliser.
Yeah.
Yeah, Osmocote.
Okay.
And maybe the potting mix. Like really, there's some pretty terrible potting mixes around. Like I've just changed the potting mix that I'm using for plant production to a new potting mix, and I did that maybe six, 7 weeks ago, and all the newly potted stuff is going crazy. So a really good potting mix does make a difference, and Osmocote and plenty of water in the heat, and you're in business.
Yeah. Ruthie would like. Ruthie has a small front landscape south-facing full sun. What is best to replace Japanese flowering crabapple tree, low maintenance, non-invasive roots, and not too big?
I reckon you should come and see me, and I will help you find a Japanese maple. South-facing Japanese maples are great, and we've got all sorts. Like there's one called Shana, and it only
Hers
grows
is north-facing.
What's that? I
North
thought south-facing.
No, north-facing.
Oh, north-facing. Okay, so
Exposed front.
right, exposed north-facing. Okay, so hot sun north-facing. Before I was talking about a coma and a coma crepe myrtle. So
Sorry, no, it is south-facing. I was reading another comment. My bad.
Okay, sorry.
South-facing, yes, full sun.
Okay, so south-facing, I'll be looking. Japanese maples are great. They don't mind. They don't need. They can take. You get lots of shade on the south, and they'll cope with that shade on the south. And there's lots of different sorts. Like a Shana maple will only grow 3 meters in height, and it's a beautiful bushy one. There's beautiful weepers. There's all different colours that you can have, and often you can make a really nice landscape by putting 2, depending on the size of the landscape, of course, 2 or 3 small growing grafted Japanese maples sort of all in together. And another nice idea in a south-facing spot would be to, and I've got a couple of them out the back, is a hydrangea tree. And that is a hydrangea that's got a stem on it and then a sort of a bushy head on the top, and that makes a really interesting display, and at the moment they've got lovely flowers on them. So a hydrangea tree, great thing in a south-facing spot. And the types of ones that they use for growing a tree are a little bit different. They're not the normal ball ones, but they're ones that have a long hanging kind of a flower, which is really interesting and nice, and they have more interesting foliage than your normal hydrangea too.
Brito would like to know what causes silver spoons to die.
Almost everything. Like I had a beautiful crop of silver spoons. I was really proud of them. I had like a couple hundred of them, and I was looking forward. And it's disheartened me so much I don't even stock them in the nursery anymore. But what happened? I had them out there. Hey, we had a fairly mild frost one night, and there wasn't a bit of them left. They just dissolved in the frost. So, silver spoons, pretty interesting. Came on the market, tend to have disappeared because everything seems to make them die.
Oof. Any tips for how you can try and prolong their life?
Well, look, what they need is you need to look after them, and you've got to put them in a protected, frost-free spot. And then just look after them. So they're not, where most succulents are as tough as old boots, silver spoons are not.
Interesting. All right, from Victor we have, I would love to establish a feature tree or 2 on our semi-shaded rooftop apartment. Would prefer evergreens with a tidy look, fast growing, 3 to 4 meters in height when matured.
So evergreen, fast growing. So we have a magnolia, and it would need a bit of a trim at 3 or 4 meters. But we have a magnolia we call it a big gem. It's like the big version of the little gem, or it's properly called an Exmouth magnolia. But Exmouth magnolia, rooftop situation, fast growing, big fragrant flowers, lovely dark green foliage, excellent. And I think if you put it in a pot and kept it in a pot that wasn't too big, it would pretty much stop at 3.5 meters. But it loves a bit of a trim. But that would be a really, really good tree in a rooftop situation. Another tree, a little bit more unusual, is a silk screen, a Gordonia silk screen. And it's a really pretty tree, amazing flowers in spring, beautiful glossy foliage, really lovely tree, but tough as anything. And that's a silk screen and Gordonia. So that would be another tree worth considering, and that is very, very fast growing. So they're two really fast, tough trees, beautiful flowers, lovely features to them, and tough and great for a rooftop garden.
Perfect. All right, well that is a wrap on our Q&A live. We do these every Monday, same time, same platform, so 12 p.m. and whatever platform you're on right now, because we are on multiple ones, you can just join again on that platform. And yeah, we would really, really love it if you did tell more of your loved ones about this space. We want to make gardening as accessible as possible for as many people as possible, so that everyone can enjoy their thriving plants and beautiful gardens. But in the meantime, we hope you have a lovely rest of your Monday. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and hopefully we will see you. Is it the New Year next week? I think it's going to be.
No, we're
almost
pre-New Year. So next Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, next Monday after, just before the
Almost,
New Year. Yeah,
almost. Okay,
almost
well,
New Year.
we won't
So
quite see you in 2025 just yet.
We'll have a sort of a relaxed holiday type version for you. So if you
Exactly. You could talk about more calming, peaceful things.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Anyways, we'll catch you then. Bye, everyone.
Bye.